Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and I am delighted to welcome you to National Apprenticeship Week. And this is very exciting because it's taking place during the entire week, and we are doing this in partnership with the Department of Labor. As you're probably aware, they've been leading this for 10 solid years, and they have featured over 2,000 events and proclamations in all 50 states across the country. So this year's theme, 10 years of engagement, expansion, and innovation, is in recognition of that fact. And we are really excited because we have this adult education focus for our National Apprenticeship Week. And that's why I want to introduce Karen Govan and Kartav Patel, who will talk about National Apprenticeship Week, why it's so important, the work that they've been engaged in. I also want to give a shout out to our Behind Every Employer podcast hosts. That would be Anson Green and Jeffrey Abramowitz. They do a fantastic job with that. And if you have an apprenticeship story that you'd like to share, we would love for you to contact them. We'll put some information in the chat box there. We also want to make sure that you have the opportunity to introduce yourself in the chat box with your name, as well as the organization and the state you're joining us from. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Karen. You are muted, Karen.
Yep. Thank you so much, Sharon. I appreciate this. We're super excited, and we want to welcome everyone on behalf of COABE to this and attending the first session of a great series that we've had on apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, and really in adult education and how to get along. So I'm going to pick up, and I'm going to try to share my screen, and we'll get going. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Karen Govan. I'm the Director of Workforce Development in Detroit at my side, formerly Southwest Solutions. I oversee several programs, but I am focused on workforce and adult education. And I'm here with Kartav. Do you want to introduce yourself, Kartav?
Sure. Thank you, Karen. Hi. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, sorry. I'm Kartav Patel, and I'm with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity with the State Apprenticeship Expansion Team, and I help oversee all of our registered apprenticeship expansion initiatives here throughout the state.
So thank you. So we're going to be tag teaming and talking about just the importance of apprenticeship, but also what's happening in Michigan. So I want to welcome. So what we're hoping to cover is we're going to just go over just some generic information and data about apprenticeships that's occurring nationally. We're going to talk about what is an apprenticeship and how to get started. And then we're going to talk about what's happening in Michigan, specifically with MySteers and their pilot program. But first, I always like to start with something fun. And so we're going to do Name This Apprentice. So I'm going to read the clues. And of course, the last one probably gives it away. And I want you to put it in chat who you think this apprenticeship is. He started his career as an apprenticeship painter in Italy. History now knows him as one of the greatest painters, sculptors, and inventors of all time. And of course, a few of his most famous paintings are the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. So who is that famous apprentice? And you probably guessed it. It was Leonardo da Vinci. Isn't that incredible? That here we go. Apprentices have started a long time ago. So this isn't a new concept, and this isn't new. That is just starting. So another one. After graduating from high school, he started training as an apprentice electrician. He once told the press, "I was trained to be an electrician. I suppose I got wired the wrong way around somewhere along the line." We might not know him as the king of rock and roll if he had continued with his original career choice. So who is that apprentice? Elvis Presley, right? Isn't that wild? An electrician. Would he be singing? He probably would be doing karaoke, right? Name this apprentice. Now, not all apprentices are men. So sometimes we get this, misconception or myth that it is men. They're usually older. So it may have helped that her father is a major celebrity in his own right, but she wanted to earn her reputation as a fashion designer through talent, not connections. So she applied to become an apprentice to Edward Sexton, a world-renowned men's tailor on Savile Row in London. So who is this? We'll give a couple minutes because this might be difficult for some people. They might not know. So the apprentice is Stella McCartney. So kind of an overview. What is an apprenticeship when we talk about it? You know, it trains you, you get a skilled trade, and it's a profession in a mixed setting. You get learning and hands-on work experience. So community colleges, tech schools, employers often do this job-related course. And so why are we actively involved in this? Because in adult education, we have a lot of students who might be doing career assessments, but not sure what they want to do. And this is a great way for them not only to learn the skills, but to get paid while they're learning it into something that they're very passionate about. So why do it? Well, it comes with a lot of perks. You're getting paid while you're learning, you're doing classroom instruction, you're mentoring, and they get the opportunity really just to understand what that job entails, and they're earning credentials along the way. And those credentials are stackable. They're going to help them as they continue on their career. Do you get paid as an apprentice? Yes, you do. Some apprentices are considered a full-time job, and they even get a paycheck. The average starting salary usually is about $15 an hour. And then once they get that experience, once they get another credential, it just stacks and they earn more and more and more. And the benefits that come with an apprenticeship and just being in a union or even being in a shop is just tremendous. So according to the U.S. Department of Labor, you can gain skills, and then when you do, your pay goes up. So what kind of apprenticeships are out there? So sometimes we always think, oh, it's only in the skilled trades, it's in the construction, but apprenticeships can run a variety of different things, not only just the skilled trades like electric and plumbing, but it also can be in the health profession. It could be in IT, it could be in security. Everything is available when you want to do an apprentice. It's working with an employer and then actually doing the job training. So how long do they last? You know, it really varies depending on what apprenticeship you're doing. But for some, it can be 3 years, it could be 5 years, and it could be sooner. So what's next after apprenticeship? Well, once you're finished and you become that journeyman, then you're a job ready, and you will be then turning around and using your skills to help others that are involved in that career path. So when we talk about apprenticeship myths, and I talked about that earlier. So some people have this preconceived notion about apprenticeships that they're only for construction, the trades. A majority are, but it is not just entirely the trades. They're only for young people or those that are in there are much older. No, they're a whole age, and you'll see that when I show you some of the data. They're for people without a high school equivalency or a diploma. No, they have to be. Majority of the jobs that are through apprenticeships, you have to have an equivalency and you have to have a diploma. And so this is what's so great about the adult ed, is that you're doing it with them and you're helping them get those credentials. You're helping to upskill their math and reading, getting their equivalency or their diploma, so then they can step into an apprenticeship. And they aren't paid well. Well, we know that's not a fact because, like I said, the average salary, depending on where you're at, is 15, and it goes up once you earn credentials and you get those hours in. So the growth of apprenticeships, when we talk about that, even though this had started way back in the time of when people were blacksmiths or they were just learning the trade, it continues to grow. And so 64% of growth in new apprentices since 2012. And you can see how the line is going up. Now, it did go down in 2020, and I think some of that might be an anomaly because of COVID, but you see an increase, that 2 million new apprentices since 2012. 22% are more active than the previous. And there's 396 plus thousand that participated and completed an apprenticeship in the last 5 years. And so we knew that apprenticeships are growing, programs are growing, and also the trades and the career are expanding. So when we talked about that, you know, is it only for young people? What is that average age demographics? If you look at it, you know, while there is a huge number that are 24 and under, the majority are usually 25 to 34. And some of them are, there's over 100,000 that are 35 and up. So it's all ages. It doesn't matter what age you decide to go into a career and you want to change or you want to learn a skill. So what are the core components of a registered apprenticeship? There are 7 core parts. First, the most important is that it's industry-led. programs are industry vetted and improved to make sure that they're aligned with the industry standards. That apprenticeships are highly trained, and they're highly skilled. And I remember working with some of the unions when we talked about, like, how can we create an apprenticeship? And that was one of the things that they said, is that we do not want someone who's going to be working on a highway. We don't want someone who's going to be working on a bridge project. We don't want someone who is going to be building new construction for condos that are not highly skilled. So they do help, but they want to make sure that it's industry led and they are meeting the standards. It's paid job, so apprentices do get paid, and it's progressive once they learn the skills. And it's structured on the job training, so they're learning the skills and the crafts while they're actually doing the hands-on, which I think makes it more meaningful. Supplemental education, we do supplemental classes based on what the trainings are needed by the employers, and it might be just that they need to be upskilled. You know, it might be that they need to learn English language, and it might be that they need to learn more of math, specific math. If you're doing wastewater treatment, if you're doing something that needs that specific skill. So there's always education that's going to help you. For truck driving, you know, it could be that you're going to be more specific to concrete. Or for construction, you might be more heading towards the HVAC or electric. Diversity. So this is something that the unions and apprentices are really striving for, is to create diversity, so that it's not what people think back in the day. So they're designed to reflect the communities which they operate. They're non-discrimination, anti-harassment, and so they really are promoting and recruiting and trying to promote that equity. Quality and safety. Apprenticeships are afforded worker protections while receiving the training. So they are always doing that, and you must be certified, whether it's OSHA 30 or MUST or whatever. You do have to go through quality training and safety before you even get on the site. And of course, this credentials, which really makes it the best thing, is that they're portable, they're nationally recognized. So if you get something in Michigan and you move to California, it carries with you wherever you're at. So how do I get started in an apprenticeship? Well, you know, you need to make sure that you have that, combining the on-the-job training. You kind of want to involve these key stakeholders, and those are the employer, obviously the learner, and then the training provider. So the first thing you do is look at the job trends. What's really needed? What are you seeing a shortage of? You know, in Detroit, it's always going to be construction, but it's also IT, and it's also majorly the healthcare. And so these are the job trends. So this is what you want to look at. You want to make that connection and just decide, well, this is what I really want to work with. What is the purpose? Are you going to create an apprenticeship job? Do you actually have in you that you can do the training? Or maybe it's a pre-apprenticeship that you're going to work towards skills that they can do so they can go and transition easily into an apprenticeship. You need to make sure you connect with an employer. The materials that you use is so critical, because you sure don't want to teach them things that are outdated or things that don't apply to that field. And so you want to make sure that you're connecting with an employer to understand what skills that they need, what tools do they use, and they might be able to give you the curriculum that they use, or they might have a manual that you can use. And so you want to make sure that you're using the right materials. If you cannot be a trainer, then you got to connect with the trainer, someone who understands what's being taught and who has a slew of employers that they work with, so that they are up to date too. And of course, find the curriculum. I don't mean that you have to write the curriculum, find the curriculum, because there's curriculum all over that you can use that is used for specific skills. And then of course, we always try to contextualize what we're doing. So they might be learning English as a second language. They might be getting their high school equivalency. And so you want to make sure that you have the right curriculum to help them. All right. Hartel, were you going to start with this one?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Karen. You did a great job. Thank you again for all of your work with adult education and registered apprenticeship in Michigan. And so employer benefits, let's talk a little bit about that. So as Karen mentioned earlier in her previous slide, oops, I think the slide just went away. You want me to share?
Do you have it, or you want me to share?
If you can share again, that'd be great.
Okay,
Yeah, it's just a little glitch. Sorry about that.
I think Karen froze. So if you have the
Oh,
slides, if you could pull that up.
yep, that's not a problem. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Slideshow. All right. Can everybody see it? All right. All right. How about now? Lindsay, can you see it?
Yeah, looks good. Thank you.
All right. So employer benefits, let's talk a little bit about that. So first, it creates a skilled workforce, right? So in terms of a registered apprenticeship program, it's really employer driven, and the program is designed mainly by the employer, along with other stakeholders that are key into developing the success of that registered apprenticeship program. And so what it does, it creates that pipeline for creating that highly skilled workforce, that talent development pipeline process. So in a result, it returns a skilled workforce for that specific occupation that that program is designed for. Karen mentioned about construction and manufacturing and IT and healthcare. Those are just some of the industries that we're working here in Michigan. A registered apprenticeship can benefit all industries and all sectors, depending on the employer's needs. Improve productivity. It improves profitability for the employer, which is their bottom line, and then also positive impact on the apprentice, the participants themselves, in terms of gaining skills, gaining those credentials, right? And then it reduces turnover, because what's the benefit about a registered apprenticeship program? Well, there's that mentor component, right? Whether it's a journey person that's mentoring you or coaching you through, or another designated supervisor, they're going to make sure that you're very successful within that program. So it minimizes the cost with the reduced turnover and liability. And then customized training. Karen mentioned IET, or contextual training, right? So there's flexibility in those training options that helps the workers develop the right skills. So it could be all in person, it could be all online, or it could be a combination of both in person and virtual. And then 90% of the apprentices continue employment after completing an apprenticeship. We do have here in Michigan a high retention rate for registered apprenticeship graduates. It is a 90 to 94% retention rate for that employer. So again, it benefits the employer greatly, and then diversity fosters a diverse and inclusive culture. So those are just some of the employer benefits. Right. Karen, are you back on? Do you want to talk a little bit more about the adult education benefits?
Sure. Sorry. Boy,
That's
it's
okay.
at the airport, right? Your laptop goes. So, of course, I've talked throughout that, and Cartel will also share the advantages of adult education and being in an apprentice or a pre-apprentice program. So, obviously, one of the major benefits is that they're getting paid training. So while they're going to school, they're actually having they're working. And now we know that it's very, very important for our adult education students to get paid, because really they need that employment, they need that work. And so they get paid, they get the education. So not only are they gaining that job training and the learning, but they're also getting that education that they might need for their high school equivalency or their diploma. And also the credentials. I can't stress enough about the credentials too, because they're portable. They can go with you, and they can follow you wherever you go. And for us in adult education, it's all about the MSGs, right? What do we get out of this? So we're having our participants in an apprenticeship. Well, first of all, they're getting a credential. They're gaining employment. You're still going to be post-testing, or if they're doing the work keys, you can use that. They're getting their high school diploma or equivalency. And of course, they're moving to that apprenticeship and employment. And for some, that apprenticeship might help because they're actually at a place while they're working. And so they might be able to improve some of their tests and their skills that they're doing, and get that counted for an MSG too. So thanks.
All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about one of the program initiatives for registered apprenticeship expansion, It's called the MySteers grant, and it's statewide targeted apprenticeship inclusion and readiness. This is specifically geared towards adult education, the population of adult education here in Michigan. And so our goal here with this grant program, it started in 2023 of July, and this grant runs until next year of June 30th of 2025. We've at the state level invested $970,000 into serving direct adult ed participants. I believe maybe 200 participants overall in Michigan. And so we want to make sure that that this program is targeted towards that HSC or GED completion, as well as adult education participants receiving those credentials and making sure that they're entering into a registered apprenticeship program upon obtaining their high school diploma or GED, and also being successful in their programs themselves for the registered apprenticeship component. Karen, did you want to talk a little bit maybe specifically about your grant in Detroit? That's kind of a little bit, that's I think is targeted construction. I'm not sure, I think it's construction, but it's pretty innovative from what you told us.
Thanks. So we were really lucky to get be one of the pilots for the MySteers grant. And so this allowed us to create a pre-apprenticeship program using the NCCER. And so our participants, they come in, they're actually youth. We leveraged and we braided some of our funds from the growth opportunity and also from our youth build. And so we're able to use that MySteers dollars to support supportive services and all the training needs that they need. And so they're getting their high school equivalency or their diploma. They're getting work readiness skills. They're getting hands-on experience working with tools that they've never used before. We're fortunate to have a 3D computer program so they can actually build and look at blueprints before they get into doing some of the hands-on, so we're not wasting materials. And they're also getting, the most important thing is the career coaching and the case management. So we're really mitigating any barriers that they have. And it helps them not only for retention, but also so that they can get that positive step forward while they're looking for employment, and they're also continuing on with their education. Thanks.
All right. So in Michigan, as Karen mentioned, they're offering a pre-apprenticeship component with their grant program. And so this slide kind of talks about some of the pre-apprenticeship readiness components and the certificate that Michigan is aiming to implement in the next year. So why a MARC? Well, MARC stands for Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificate. And so this is geared towards all those pre-apprenticeship programs that are within our state that are working with participants that want to enter a registered apprenticeship program. And so we know that Michigan especially benefits from high quality apprenticeship readiness program or pre-apprenticeship training to ensure that enrollment into a USDOL registered apprenticeship program. And so the MARC recognizes those high quality programs, pre-apprenticeship programs, to help individuals access that training that leads directly to that RAP opportunity. And then also it helps empower the employer sponsors to more readily find qualified RAP applicants. So that's the purpose behind creating this MARC. And so a Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificate ensures a properly prepared pipeline of individuals to register apprenticeship programs. And the main least common denominator, it takes the least common denominator approach for foundational knowledge and skills at the industry level. So what we mean by that is that there's going to be two levels that we're going to talk about shortly as it pertains to the MARC. There's a level 1 and then a level 2. And level 2 really focuses on that extra articulated credit, the previous credit experience that a participant may have that can count towards a registered apprenticeship program.
I also want to say, Cartel, when you talk about, having this MARC, it's really great because it's standardized. It makes it more credible, and our students get a certificate from the state saying that you have met what is required to be in a registered apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship program. And it helps us to kind of, gives us a pat on the back too, that we're doing the right things and we're meeting the standards. And it's really important to know that when you're doing that pre-apprentice and you're, moving ahead, that it is quality and that you're meeting the DOL requirements, and that the unions and those that they're entering know that they get a quality program and a quality participant.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to kind of emphasize on what you said, it's actually not the state of Michigan giving the certificate. We actually recognize that it's our regional partners, all of Karen's organization, other organizations that within the region are doing the pre-apprenticeship work. And so we want to recognize their programs. So what we're doing is more of an endorsement towards their quality programs, whether it's in construction, manufacturing, information technology, healthcare, agriculture, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that their program is recognized and that they're meeting that quality standard based on the USDOL training employment notice 2323. I was about to say the previous one, but that's no longer applicable. It is now training employment notification 2323 for a quality pre-apprenticeship program. And so some of the goals for the MARC are exactly that. Make sure that we have our pre-apprenticeship programs align with that 102323, and then they also not only meet those USDL RAP standards, but they can also serve as an industry recognized credential, meeting WIOA requirements and post-secondary recognized and Perkins 5 indicator for post-secondary recognized credentials. So those are some of the goals that we have for the MARC. All right, so level 1. So MARC level 1, just go ahead and kind of highlight some of the key points here. So it confirms readiness for entry into RAPs in a specific industry sector, and that certificate holder achieved a defined level of proficiency through assessment recognizing the RAP standards as qualification for advanced standing. So with level 1, the program, the endorsement, your program for the quality pre-apprenticeship must be aligned with USDO training and employment notice, which is 2323. And then it must include curriculum that meets the baseline needs for all industry sector occupations covered. And it may also be a portion of a high school senior portfolio or a work-based learning requirement. So it's not limited to just 18 and up. Remember, the minimum age for a participant or an individual to enter a registered apprenticeship program is 16. And we do have plenty of high school juniors and seniors that are currently in an STRA, we call it, School Registered Apprenticeship program here in Michigan. And also may incorporate other current industry recognized credentials. So it's not just limited to just the one requirement. There could be other industry recognized credentials. I believe Karen mentioned quite a few in their program. So they're all stackable credentials and they all help increase the apprentice's skills.
I also want to say, Kartev, is that it's not an easy application to make sure that you have everything set while you're going. You know, we provide this training and we think we're doing a great job. And then when you get that checklist and then you have to write all the information and show all the information, it really helps you in looking at what you're doing and to make sure that everything is all set and that you really are meeting the standards. So it's wonderful to have that.
Absolutely. And then for a MARC level 2, again, same qualifications, direct alignment with RAP standards, but this time it includes articulation and credit for prior learning in RAP standards. So you may come in, you may have an apprentice that comes in with certain competencies that qualify as completed tasks for your registered apprenticeship program, and you want to grant them that. This is where that articulated credit comes in, that prior learning experience. And then, let's see, and then language can be changed or added to depending on each trade and RAP standards. So level 2 really focuses on those apprentices, those individuals that come from a pre-apprenticeship program or even from prior experience in other training programs, and you want to make sure that that the work that they've done, the achievement that they have, is honored into your registered apprenticeship program. So there's flexibility within that as well. All right, and then this is sort of like our application process. It's for all of our Michigan providers. They would contact us at apprenticeship@michigan.gov if they're interested in learning more about becoming a MARC provider, whether it's level 1 or level 2. We have a checklist, a sample checklist that we give out. It's on our LEO registered apprenticeship resource page. It's our landing page, we call it. And so as long as they meet those checklist requirements, we're able to go ahead and say, yes, you may go ahead and start your pilot program. It's in a pilot phase right now currently. We have plenty of programs that are doing a pilot MARC 1 and level 1 and level 2. And then we make sure we keep track of making sure that they are consistent with the USDO RAP standards. I think we're at the end of our presentation. Karen, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I guess, we can do a closing, but maybe we should open it up for some questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Does anyone have any questions that they maybe have put in chat? Let's go and check it out.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing right now. Let's see. I think there's quite a few questions.
Oh.
Actually, no, sorry. Let's see. I think we got one question so far. What about HSC requirements for high school students?
So high school equivalency students. So we don't really, when you're getting that pre-apprenticeship, what we do is we contextualize it. So when they're with the manual that we use, we don't use the Kaplan Big Book and we don't use most of the GED materials. What we do is we use the textbooks from NCCR and also what's required with work keys and the other studies. And so when we're doing language arts, it might be comprehension. So we're going to read the history of unions, or we're going to read different topics about it, about their area of study. And from that's where we pull out information, comprehension, sequencing and all that. And same with math. So math is really critical, and we really focus a lot on understanding simple measurements, right? Kartev, you were with the youth too. We would sit there and we would measure using a tape measure. That's a skill that is so needed in the construction. And so how do you use the tape measures? How do you convert inches to feet and also how do you read the centimeters and meters? And it helps to being able to work with drywall and also the angles, understanding the right angles. And probably the most important thing, that the most difficult thing, is the blueprint reading. I remember one of the instructors, he was demonstrating and I was sitting in his class and he was showing how to read a blueprint. And what was great was that he gave everyone a blueprint and they're looking at it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even make heads or tails of it. Him slowly taking it apart. But it was also learning about ratios and proportions. And so how they mark, that this is only this, but this also means this many feet. And so it helps to make that, it makes the GED more valid for them, and then how it applies to their trades. And so we don't necessarily do that. Now, high school diploma, I know that some people use that CTE, or they do that and they can apply it towards a personal curriculum, or they can use it to apply for additional elective credits.
Yeah, and those that are specifically in high school STRA programs, they can either be in a CTE program and that counts towards their work-based learning hours. And we made sure that we align that with our guide to youth registered apprenticeship in Michigan. That's also available on our landing page as a resource. And then also for those that are not in CTE programs that are high school students, they can do a registered apprenticeship program. They track seat time, they work. There's a designated person within the high school, either it most likely won't be the counselor, or sometimes it is the counselor, or the assistant principal that is keeping track of making sure that hours are being tracked and collected, and they're working with the employer sponsor. So we do have examples of that. And the nice thing about starting in high school, we do have all of our registered apprenticeship apprentices in high school do follow the wage and hour Michigan state law in terms of how many hours they can work per week. And I think the max is 24 hours. It went up a few years ago. I'm not sure when. And then they can work a full 8-hour day in either Saturday or Sunday. And then that's when school is in session. So there's a 24-hour per week limit there. But when school is not in session, they can be full-time. And those hours will count towards their whole entire program. And so they may get done a little bit early once they graduate high school, depending on the length of the program. As Karen mentioned, some programs, the smallest program for a registered apprenticeship program can be minimum is 1 year, and some can go up to close to 6 or 7 years, depending on the occupation.
Right. And what makes it great is that those students are coming out and they've already got these credentials. They can step right into a job, into a career path that they really want to do. And for some apprentice programs, they can actually also continue on in community college in more specialized areas. And so, or they might just, it's probably just pretty much more specialized areas. And some of them have articulation with apprentice programs where they can go and do some of their apprentice education at the community college. So they're going to be earning that credential, they're going to be getting that credit, and so they'll be right into that college.
And that you bring up a good point. A lot of the RTI, the educated component, the related technical instruction, they're done by our colleges and university here in Michigan. And so they're also earning, a lot of programs earn college credit. So it's, this whole thing of separation of apprenticeship and college is not entirely true, because a lot of the programs do offer that college credit as you earn within your program. It just depends on the program itself and how it was designed.
And it aligns also with the state initiative by the 60 by 30. So there's a lot of initiatives. There's also a lot of scholarship opportunities with the Michigan Promise. So, some of the costs are really covered through the state.
And just wanted to not clarify, but just wanted to also add to one of the slides that Karen talked about nationally for apprenticeship that is growing. Registered apprenticeship is growing. Here in Michigan, we have anywhere between, I think, approximately 870 active registered apprenticeship programs, and that number continues to grow up, go up, and go up even more every month or so. And then we also have, I believe, 21,690, almost 22,000 active apprentices. That's actually a 12% or 13% increase from the previous year. So the training model is growing. A lot of our workforce agencies across the state are working with employer sponsors that they're growing programs. And I think about 45% of our active apprentices, like 9,000 are youth, are 18 or 16 to 24, and the rest are 25 and older. So there's really there has been a big strong push here in Michigan to use registered apprenticeship training model as a talent development pipeline for workforce development.
Right. And like you said, I think, it's growing, and I just think that's really the way to do it. And for some programs, if you're thinking about, how do I even get started? Look at if you're doing an integrated and education and training, start with the simple IET, model, or a BEST model. What are you doing? Because you're helping them prepare for this, but they're also learning hands-on, and they're getting a trade. And so that's really how you build it. Meeting with, eventually meeting with employers, or how can you support that trainer? And then from there you can add on. So you don't have to just jump into an apprenticeship or a pre-apprenticeship, because sometimes that can be scary. So
someone just asked if we can share the materials. I just put in the our Leo landing page for apprenticeship resources. And so we have our MARC pilot process on there, our guide to youth registered apprenticeship, our MyStairs grant program is on there as well. Other resources for registered apprenticeship here in Michigan. One of the big things, as well as not only working with our regional partners, is working with making sure that the employers are also at the table as well. We have Voice to Talent, which is this logo behind me, which is one of our state initiatives within our section, and making sure that regions across the state celebrate their employers getting new programs, new occupations, but also celebrating the apprentices right when they graduate. And so now we've taken that initiative from a state initiative, and now all of our regional partners across the state are actually hosting their own Race to Talent initiatives, which is really great. And we love attending them. We love going to them. We love seeing apprentices being celebrated. We love seeing new employers come to the table. It's really a great learning opportunity for employers to maybe take on, maybe this is something that I could use in terms of my organization to help increase the talent, skills, and then also making sure that I'm growing my employees as well.
Yeah, I think, Carrie, that you dropped it in chat, right?
Yes, I did. I just did it to host and panelists.
Or maybe I just. Sorry, that's not it then. We'll make sure that COABE gets it too. And they've also recorded this. So if you go back, and I always tell everyone, if you ever go to, thinking about maybe I want to learn a little bit more, you always go to COABE.org and the resources, because they archive. And they'll be holding it, and they'll be keeping all the recordings for all the trainings that they do.
Yep. And I just did it to everyone. So I just reshared it. And then, yeah, we got a question from Christy. So you mentioned high school and college. This is also for adult learners? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. U.S. Department of Labor has recognized adult education as definitely, as registered apprenticeship is definitely a pathway for adult learners to continue on in terms of employment, and continuing on their career pathway after obtaining their GED or high school equivalency. And so we recognize that here at Michigan, and that's why we work with our adult ed partners, such as Karen and her group, amongst other adult ed partners, because it is something that the adult learners are asking for, are interested in, and then also it's a great career pathway,
Right. I totally agree. And I think it's the whole concept that they're learning a skill. They're hands-on doing a skill. They're getting paid, and they're also getting that education component. And so we know that, I can sit there and some of us that went to college, yeah, we can sit there and read a book and all that. But for a lot of people, they want to get a trade. They want to get that credential. They want to be in that career that they're interested in. And so apprentice is really the way to go. And again, I always just say, start slow. Think about an IET. Think about how you can contextualize. Think about some of the great software and the programs that are out there that you can have your students kind of explore. Also, I can't stress going to your one-stops, going to your American Job Centers, because they do have a list of apprenticeships that they can have their clients go to, or they can go into job training. And perhaps that job training does have a foothold into an apprenticeship program.
Yep. And all of our Michigan Works agencies in Michigan have an apprenticeship unit, a registered apprenticeship unit that does an excellent job of working with employers and seeing if registered apprenticeship is a viable training model option for their needs. So we've been doing this for the last 5 years, and so it continues to grow and grow and grow. I think we got another question in. So a student in GED or a high set program, would they be co-enrolled as an apprentice, or would we do either or?
So what we do is we actually co-enroll them, because in order for them to go into the apprenticeship, because we do a pre-apprenticeship. And so for them to be in an apprenticeship program, they have to have their high school diploma or their equivalency. And so really it's also meeting with that employer in that apprenticeship program to see if you can do that and you can co-enroll them. For us, because we're doing that, the pre-apprentice, it's what we would do. They would get that before they go into their apprenticeship. But I will also say that there are apprenticeship programs that I know that they have ESL, they're heavy ESL, so they're learning that skill. And there's one that's up north that works with that the Boeing company, and they actually are getting their diploma or their equivalency while they're getting that apprenticeship. So it really just depends on the manufacturing and the apprenticeship. So get to know your employers and find out, what they're willing to do, because we have great students that can do this and really want to do this. And how can we tap that?
Yep. It depends on the employer sponsored program, like Karen mentioned. Some programs you can be co-enrolled, while some you can't. You have to have that requirement. And so along with what we're doing statewide with the MARC is we want to make sure that GED and HSD components built in within the pre-apprenticeship that the regions are offering. So that way, when they do get a direct entry, they have the industry recognized credential, they have the education credential, and other credentials as well as they enter in from a pre-apprenticeship, quality pre-apprenticeship into a registered apprenticeship program. Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
I do not see any other questions right now.
Well, we'll give it a minute, but while we're doing this, I just also want to thank everyone for attending this as we kick off the apprenticeship week here with COABE. And COABE was so fortunate to get some really great speakers. So tomorrow, the same time at 2 o'clock, creating pre-apprenticeship programs leading to credentials and meaningful employment. And this is the focus now. We did a little bit about Michigan, even though we did a general welcome about apprenticeships, but this is going to be focused with what's happening in Maine. And so again, even though you think, well, Maine, but I always say you can take something away. There's something great that's happening in every state. On Wednesday at 2 o'clock, it's Blueprints to Construction Career Pathway, Nailing It with NCCER. And that's with our partner, NCCER. So there's a great team. And there's also someone from, I think it's from Monroe Community College in Michigan, I think, that is actually doing and using the NCCER just like we are. It's a great way. Students really like it. It's an easy pre-apprenticeship model. And so, if you want to know more about that, make sure you attend that and understand what's going on with the NCCR. On Thursday at 2 o'clock, there's a virtual apprenticeship program called Change Lives for Incarcerated Women. This is a program that's happening in Maryland and with Vehicles for Change. And what a great program when we sit there and we talk about not only the diversity, because we're working with the justice involved, but also with women, because we always want to see, women and the numbers grow for that. And so it's a great program happening in Maryland. And then we're going to close it on Friday at 2:00 with adult education and registered apprenticeship partners on the path to sustainable careers. And these are programs that's happening in New Mexico. And so it's really great to see these programs that are happening all around the country and what they're doing. And I'm sure there's always that commonality of, having that employer, having the trainers, or having that curriculum. But it's just great how they're doing it and taking advantage of it. So I don't know if there's any other questions or anything you want to add.
No, I think we don't have any questions, but thank you again for inviting me.
Yes, we'll give you back some time on your day. So thank you so much. And everyone, please, make that connection with COABE, find out what's going on, not only with COABE, but what's happening locally in your community, and find those apprenticeship programs that are and just make that connection, find out how can I be involved in, or how can I get my students involved.
Absolutely.
All right. So thank you, everyone, and have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
everyone.
All
Yeah,
right.
have a good afternoon.